Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting Investing Pro webinar where we navigate through all the wonderful features that are available with your Investing Pro subscription. I'm your host, Dave Schechter. Got a lot of exciting stuff in store for you today. We're going to get started in just a moment, but we're going to give another minute or two for others to join, and then we'll get started. In the meantime, why don't you go ahead and write to me in the chat your name and where you're from. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. So just drop me a thumbs up in the chat if you can. Hello, Zafar, based in London. Welcome. Hello, Dieter from Germany. Thank you for joining. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I see it. It comes in batches. So everybody is alive and well. I have Danielle from Italy. I have a subscriber from Canada. We have another Dieter who is from Argentina. So we are blessed with two Dieters today. Excellent. Looks like we have a critical mass. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So on today's agenda, we have some free tools worth knowing. And then directly after that, we're going to explore the Investing Pro features, namely ProPicks AI, Warren AI, Fair Value, Health Score, ProTips, and ideas. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So before we begin, I want to orient this webinar. It's going to be less about trading and actively trading and more about what the features are, how they're comprised, where you can find them on the site, and how you can leverage them to become a better investor. And before we begin the webinar itself, here's a little preamble about what Investing.com is. Investing.com is a financial news analysis and data website. We cover almost every global exchange in 33 unique editions and languages. If you'd like to dial in your local exchange or language, you may do so by hovering over the flag icon in the top right corner and then just selecting the location, and it will dial it in for your particular language and location. So I'm going to go ahead and just increase the size of my screen so that everybody can see everything. Excellent. So this is the homepage you are likely familiar with. I come in here every single morning just to browse around and see what the top line news items are, if there have been any changes that happened while I was asleep or away. Directly below the top line news items, we have some quick charts on markets and stocks and commodities, ETFs and indices. Below that, we have the most undervalued and overvalued stocks. This is an Investing Pro feature only, so it's just a quick and easy jumping point to catch up on undervalued and overvalued stocks. Directly below that, we have calendars, both economic and earnings. We're going to dig into more of that later. Below that, we have a quick jumping point for ProPicks AI, which is our proprietary AI that selects stocks. It's our proprietary stock picker. Below that, we have some popular screens. We're going to dig into the screener in depth in just a moment. And then, of course, some of the popular tools that we have. Before we jump into the first feature, I did want to bring to your attention the workstation, which is on the right side of the screen here. It's just an easy jumping point as well for different charts. You can also ask directly questions to Warren AI through the workstation. It's a quick jumping point to the ProPicks AI. You can jump to your watch list pretty quickly here as well. You can go ahead and check in on any alerts that you have, whether those are price alerts or alerts that you've set for economic events, for example. I'm going to show you guys how to go ahead and set alerts for all of those different things, and of course, breaking news. The reason I'm highlighting this workstation for you is because it follows you around the site. You can, of course, access different parts of the website through the nav bar, but this is the workstation and it follows you around the site. So whatever works best for you, just wanted to highlight that for you. So let's go ahead and jump into the first free feature, which is the economic calendar. So the economic calendar, as you see here, is a very robust list of all of the different economic events that can impact global trading or your portfolio directly. You have the ability to set your own current time range, and that way it will indicate to you the local hour upon which this particular release or announcement is going to be happening. You can filter for today, yesterday, tomorrow, this week, or next week. Pro tip, what I usually do is on a Monday morning, I'll come in and see what's at the top of the ledger for this week. And then sometime around Wednesday or Thursday in the middle of the week, I'll also just come in here under the This Week filter in order to catch up and make sure that I didn't miss anything important. So as you can see, there's a lot of selections here. I'm a fan of brevity. I'm a fan of lowering my noise to signal ratio. So I will do that by clicking on filters. I can dial this in for any particular country or any particular exchange. I can also choose to segment these economic events based on category, like economic activity, bonds, inflation, so on and so forth. And of course, the most important, which is the level of importance. So if I'm trying to lower my noise to signal, I only want to surface the super important items that will directly affect my trading or global trade. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that filter. Now, as you can see, this list has shortened itself dramatically and only surfacing things that are super important. So for example, I see that on Friday, we have a core PCE price index month over month. Assuming that I don't know what that is, I can go ahead and I can click through to it, and it'll give me a summary of what this particular economic announcement is, some helpful charts, and of course, previous history of these announcements with the actual forecast and what the previous results were for that. So let's say that I wanted to go ahead and let's say I say to myself that this is something that should be on my radar and I want to go ahead and create an alert for it. I'm going to go ahead and click on the bell icon next to it. If this is a recurring announcement, I can choose to set a reminder for the frequency upon which this announcement is always made, or I can choose to set it once. I can choose the amount, the time amount ahead of time of how long in advance I want to be notified of this particular announcement, and I'm going to go ahead and create my alert. Excellent. I'm going to show you in a little bit where you can edit and view all of your alerts, but before that I wanted to show you the extended list of the calendar. It's not only an economic calendar, we also follow holidays, so you can know when exchanges are closed. Super important here is also earnings. Just give it a second to load up. A little bit slow, okay. And of course, the filters that I've set here are also only for super important announcements. I can of course choose to modify this based on sector or any other country or exchange. And then I see here that today there's going to be a release for Salesforce and Dollar Tree. Let's see what else is that. I see also CrowdStrike Holdings is up for earnings release, as well as Marvell. They've had some interesting news happen to them recently. So lots of, they actually just released earnings. I apologize. And so on Thursday, we have Ulta Beauty, as well as Hormel Foods. Let's say I wanted to take a look at next week. I can go ahead and I can set alerts for any company's earnings that are important for my portfolio. I also have dividends, splits, IPO, and expiration, but I will allow you to explore those on your own time. I think you guys get the general idea. So now that I've already gone ahead and set up my alert, let's say I want to view it or modify it. How would I do that? So to do so, I just hover over my profile icon in the top right corner over here, and I click on Alert Center. And here I have a readout of all the different types of alerts that I can go ahead and set. So for example, we set an alert for the core PC price index month over month just now, so it's going to show up in the economic alert event alert. I can either choose to modify it or to erase it completely, or just disable it for a certain amount of time. So also in this alert center, I also have all the authors that I'm following. I'm going to show you in a bit how you can go ahead and follow authors, and also go ahead and set up price alerts. So why don't we go ahead and do that now? Let's just use our trusty example of Cirrus Logic. Just as a disclaimer, I have not made any positions on Cirrus Logic in the past 72 hours. This is surely just for demonstrative purposes. So this right now is the equity overview page of the free website. And let's say I wanted to set an alert for any type of price change. All I need to do is just click on the bell icon over here. And now I have 4 different options of setting alerts. I can either choose to set an alert by price movement, meaning it moves above or below. I can do by percentage change, whether that's a gain or a loss. I can also choose for this to be a recurring or a one-off alert. I can also set an alert based on trading volume, and of course, the earnings as I can in the earnings calendar as well. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you would be the news section. So you can find the news here at the top. If you just hover over it, it gives you a breakdown of different sections of news that you can explore. My personal favorites are the Pro News, which are Investing Pro subscription paywalled news items. And of course, most popular. Why don't we go ahead and click on Pro News. So here is a curated list of all of the paywalled news alerts that Investing Pro subscribers have access to. I find particularly useful a couple of other sections here, namely earnings. If it's earnings season, then I want to quickly check on this just to make sure I didn't miss anything important. Other things that I find particularly interesting are the SWOT analysis, the for and against arguments for either buying or selling a stock, the analyst ratings as well. And of course, for the data nerds that like to pick apart every single piece of an earnings call, we have the transcripts for you here as well for all companies. Excellent. So moving on to analysis. Here you can find a lot of good articles in a slew of different sectors and industries. Let's take Steve Saville as an example. So let's say that I am a particular fan of Steve and I want to be notified of any future articles that Steve produces. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the follow button, and now Steve will be added to my list of followed authors. Of course, it happens that there's not enough time in the day and I am intrigued by this article's title and I just don't have the time to read it right now and I want to save it for later. So the way that I would do that is I would click on the bookmark icon over here and I see that it's saved. Now, of course, you're asking yourself, well, how do I see my saved list of articles? And that's a great question. So all you need to do is just hover over your profile icon again on the top right corner and then click on saved items. And here you'll have a list of all of the items that you've saved. So now just quickly jumping back to the alert center. Okay. And here is my list of authors that I followed. Sometimes the API takes a little bit of time to update. So if you don't see it immediately after following an author, just refresh the page or give it a second and it should then populate inside that field. Excellent. So let us move on to the screener. So what is a stock screener? For those of you who are not familiar with what a stock screener is, it's the ability for you to add specific metrics or filters in order to filter through the massive universe of stocks that there is in order to narrow down your idea surfacing to be formatted for your specific investing style or theme. So for example, if I am a novice investor and I want to have a pre-built screen in order to get my in order to get ideas flowing, I can of course just click on explore 20 plus screens, and here we've broken them down by different investing themes and types such as value or growth or dividends, for example. So why don't we go ahead and select a growth, and let's look at disruptive innovators. These are companies with disruptive technologies and business models. Their average 3-month return is 16.1 with the medium risk. So let's go ahead and apply this filter, and it's only for US based stocks. I'm gonna go ahead and let that load up for a sec. So you see that there are little bubbles inside these tabs. So I see that I have a total of 3 filters applied. I see that we're excluding any nano caps, which are companies that are below 50 million in market cap. I am also filtering for high sales growth, trailing 12 months at over 50%. And of course, a high gross profit margin of above 75%. So if I go ahead and I reset my filters, you'll see that in the entire universe of US traded stocks, there are 8,082 that we are currently covering. So if I go ahead and I apply that same filter again, we're going to growth and then disruptive innovators, you see that we go from 8,082 to 129 stocks. So it's a really good way to filter out stocks that are not interesting and not aligned with your investment theme and style to be more aligned with your investment theme and style. And I can, of course, create my own screen, or I can add in any particular attributes that I want to an existing preset screen. You'll notice that with each and every single one that I do, it narrows down my list more and more and more. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the list. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom, again, I'm a fan of brevity and I like to lower my noise to signal. And so I'm only going to select 10 rows to view at a time, so that way I could take my time and review everything in earnest. And then I can break that screen down into different information slices. So here I'm on the overview tab. For those of you who are not Apple product users, then there is a slide bar here to the bottom with a lot more information. So it's definitely important to highlight. I can also slice this by different insights, such as analyst target upside or overall health. We're going to dig into what all of these different metrics are and how they're comprised as soon as we go to the InvestingPro dashboard, which will be now. Great. So all of these features that I've just showcased right now are available for absolutely free on the website. And now we're going to explore all of the wonderful InvestingPro features. So to get to the Pro dashboard, I click on the button in the top corner over there, and we're going to actually go to an equity overview page that this really kind of helps crystallize the top features, in my opinion, that even novice investors can start using out of the box in order to speed up due diligence and vetting stock ideas. So we're going to use our trusty example of Cirrus Logic. And right away, you can see that there's a difference between the equity overview page on the free version of the website versus the Pro dashboard. So in the Pro dashboard, you'll see you have access to information like fair value, like financial health, like ProTips. And so we're going to dig into each and every one of those right now. I just want to drag this down to the bottom. As you can see, all of these modules are all of these widgets are modifiable. You can move them up, down, sideways. You can delete them. It's fully customizable. So the first InvestingPro feature that I want to dig into is something called fair value. Essentially what it is that it is our system's way of appraising the actual price of a stock based on their current book of business using up to 17 different investing models. So for Cirrus Logic, for this particular example, we're using 13 models in order to derive what is the fair value in relation to the current market price. So for example, according to these 13 different models, EV over revenue multiples, price to book multiples, 5-year DCF growth exit, so on and so forth. So each one of these individual investing models has a unique value. So when we roll all of these values up and we average them out, we see that the price according to their current book of business is estimated at $149.56, which is a 22.5% upside in relation to the current market price. Now again, these fair value models are subject to change. They do oscillate according to how the company is performing and also based on news. So it's a snapshot of how the company is currently valued according to these 13 different models. Now, of course, here at Investing.com, we're not fans of black boxes and we like to be as transparent as we possibly can. So if I wanted to understand how the system arrived at the calculation that according to EV over revenue multiples, the fair value is $135, all I would need to do is go ahead and click on it, which then sends me to the Models tab inside the Cirrus Logic equity page. And here, EV over revenue multiples, I have all of the metrics that comprise this particular estimation. So based on only multiple valuations, EV over revenue, we see the stock price is valued at, is right now 122. The fair value according to this specific investing model would be priced at $135, which gives it a 14.2% upside. Here are the companies that we're benchmarking this estimate against. Here is the low, mid, and the high. Here is all the math that goes into this calculation. You have the financials, the historical multiples, the equity waterfall, all of this information so that you can go ahead and you can double check our work. So this is just one of 13 investing models that we're using in order to derive the fair value of this particular stock. And let's say that I'm a more advanced investor, and for me, earnings power value doesn't really mean that much, and I want to remove it from the calculation. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it, and you'll see that the values themselves and the upside itself changes based on the different attributes that I've put into this calculation. So you can really dial in and get a really good sense of what the fair value is of this particular stock according to some or all of these investing models in relation to the current stock price. Now, of course, fair value is just a critic at the end of the day. And there are other attributes that you need to look at when you're doing your due diligence on any particular stock. So first step would be take a look at the fair value. Is there an upside? Is it green or is it red? If it's green, awesome. There's what to go on here a little bit, and let's continue our initial due diligence journey. So the next thing I want us to take a look at would be the financial health. So what is financial health? It's determined by ranking a company across 100 different factors in companies within the same space, which in this case would be information technology and operating in developed markets. So we grade this on a scale of 1 to 5, one being bad and 5 being excellent. And we see that Cirrus Logic in the overall health label is a 4. Now, of course, you're probably asking yourself, how do we arrive at this conclusion? So we base it off of five ARC factor grades, of which they are cash flow health, growth health, price momentum, profitability, and of course, relative value. So we see that of each of these ARC metrics, we've also associated a 1 to 5 score. And we see overall that Cirrus Logic is getting 4 out of 5. So again, we're not fans of black boxes. We like transparency. So let's say I wanted to understand why the health label was great for specifically for cash flow health. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on cash flow health. And here I can see all of the metrics that comprise cash flow health. We're looking at asset efficiency, current ratio, asset turnover, debt to equity, FCF over OCF. And let's say I wanted to take a look at how this particular metric has been performing over time. I have a chart here from December 2019. I have what this value is, how it scores in terms of a percentile out of 100 in relation to its sector and peers, and of course the associated score 1 out of 5 that has been attributed to this particular metric. I can also do the same for growth health, and I can start to create a picture as to where a company is falling short and why that might be and how this has been for them historically. Have they been able to surmount certain issues? Is this something that's static? Is it something that they're working on? All of this, all of this gives me more clarity into the overall financial health of a particular company. To the right here, I have an easy to use window with all of these, with a chart with all of these on it. So it gives me a really good sense of how things are working with any particular company. And then, of course, if I wanted to see cash flow health and see the specific rankings similar to over here, it's just viewed, it's just showcased in a different way. If I wanted to remove specific attributes because I personally don't find them interesting, or I don't think that's a specific metric that should be important for my investing, I can of course just go ahead and remove it. And you see with every one that I add or remove, the metric here is going to change. So this is fully customizable, and it really moves with you and what's important for your investing. Excellent. So let's go back to the overview page. So we look at the fair value. Upside seems pretty solid. When I take a look at the financial health, the company overall seems pretty stable. The next thing I want to take a look at in my mini journey of initial due diligence is something called ProTips, which can be seen to the left over here. So what are ProTips? ProTips are our system's way of flagging important attributes of a company that are either for or against the company. So in this particular case, I'm seeing a lot of green with a green bull, which means that it's in favor of the company. We can take a look at, let me go ahead and take a look at another company. Let's take a look at a company called Enphase. Again, as a disclaimer, I have not made any positions in Enphase over the last 72 hours. This is surely just for demonstrative purposes. And here I can see that management has aggressively been buying back shares for Enphase. So why is this a good thing? If I wanted to understand why that is, I just go ahead and I click on the item. It gives me a breakdown of why share buybacks are a good thing. It also gives me a peer benchmark of Enphase in relation to all of its other peers in its sector. I see buyback yield for Enphase is 9% and above peers. I have an income chart over here. I have a balance sheet, historical trends, all of the supporting evidence that I would need in order to understand why management aggressively buying back shares is something that's good. Let's take a look at something that's not so great for the company. So I see that 17 analysts have revised their earnings downwards for the upcoming period. So why is this a bad thing? So usually when this happens, it typically indicates that they can expect the company to earn less. It gives you all of the supporting evidence as to why this is a bearish indicator. Here are the historical trends. Again, here's an income sheet and all of the supporting evidence that you need in order to support this particular flag. And then, of course, we have things that are neutral. It shows up as gray. It doesn't pay a dividend to shareholders. If you're a dividend investor, this is important. If you're not a dividend investor, this is something that's not important for you. So what I like to do when I hear of a really good stock idea from a friend, a family member, whatever that may be, I'm first going to vet it using fair value. Very quickly, is there an upside to this particular stock? Yes or no? Seems that there might be. Cool. Is this company a solid company? In this particular case of Enphase, it gets a 2 out of 5. I have less confidence in continuing to do my due diligence. The next step of this is to take a look at the pro tips. What are the pro tips telling me? Do I see a lot more red than green? Of the red that I do see, how impactful would it be for my particular flavor of investing? So by using these 3 tools, I have a very quick and easy vetting method to say, hey, this is a stock I want to explore later out of the tens or hundreds of stock ideas that I'm getting or generating. So it's just a really quick due diligence process that I can now segment those really good ideas to a little short sheet in order to do further due diligence on later on. So as we continue our journey down the equity overview page, I have some easy price history charts that I find particularly useful. Again, when I'm doing my initial due diligence process, I have some quick information here as to whether or not what the dividend yield is, or if they even offer a dividend, what the PE ratios are. Some other peer benchmarks like analyst upside, price to book. If size of the company is something that's interesting for you, then that's also another thing that you can compare here with the peers in sector. How are they doing profit-wise? So it's just a really quick and easy comparison tool. And then, of course, taking a look at the news, which for biotech companies, for example, can either make or break a company. So news is also something that's very important. So excellent. So now that we've kind of covered some of the quick due diligence things that you can do, why don't we go ahead and take a look at generating those stock ideas. So actually, before we do that, I want to showcase to you really quickly how you can pipe in some of this fair value and health score information into your watch list. So just by default of being an InvestingPro subscriber, all of these fair value and health label scores are implemented directly into your watch list to give you a really quick and easy understanding of how the stocks in your portfolio are currently performing. But you have you have 4 default views: market view, risk, efficiency, and health. Let's say that I wanted to add another view here, and I guess we could use a classic example of dividend investing, let's say. So I'm going to go ahead and name this particular view dividend lens. And I'm going to go ahead and select it from the list. And now I'm going to go ahead and populate that view with dividend-oriented information. So there's a ton of metrics here that you can add, some of which I'm not super familiar with. So if I don't know what the Chowder rule number is, I just hover over the information icon. It gives me a readout of what this particular metric is and why it might be important for my investing. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly add in some dividend-related attributes here. So dividend frequency, the growth streak, the payment streak. Let's take a look at the CAGR over 7 years. I'm going to want to know the the dividend coverage ratio, which is the amount of cash they have on hand in order to continue paying this dividend, and what the cash amount of the last dividend was. And I think that's plenty for now. So now I have this dividend lens view in my watch list, which is excellent. But not only is this view located in my watch list, it's also available in other areas of the site, such as the screener. And of course, if I go to ProPicks, which we're going to dig into in earnest in just a moment, I now see that if I click on the portfolio tab, I see that my dividend lens has been ported over here as well. So once you create a view, it gets transported to a bunch of different areas on the site that are super helpful. So just bear that in mind. So let's go back to generating some stock ideas. So if I click on the ideas tab on the left here, I see a list of some prolific investors like Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn. I also see notable names like Bill Gates. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking a look at their F13 filings, and we are taking a look at what their holdings currently are. The idea behind this is that there are some prolific investors throughout history that might know a thing or two about the market better than we ever could. So wouldn't it be a great idea if you just take a look at their portfolio and have the ability to copy that portfolio as a watch list, for example, and just see how things are moving. So I can go ahead and I can filter for by investor type, like a hedge fund or trust, or sector focus like energy or healthcare or real estate. Why don't we take a look at Bill Ackman? Did I spell his name right? No, I did not. Probably this. Bill Ackman's portfolio. Here we go. Excellent. So off the top, I can see his holdings value is roughly about 14.6 billion. For some reason, the quarter-over-quarter value change isn't populating right now. I can see that there are 11 holdings in this particular portfolio. If I wanted to take a look at Bill Ackman's portfolio performance in relation to the S&P 500 over any amount of time, I can go ahead and do that. What I find particularly useful about this is I can take a look at all the stocks that are in this particular portfolio. I can see how many millions of this particular stock he owns and what the percentage of this portfolio these stocks make up of this particular portfolio. Another helpful tool here is the sector concentration. I can see in this particular portfolio, it's 21% hotels, restaurants, and leisure, capital markets, and also real estate management and broadline retail. So I invite you to take a look at all of these different investors and investor types. Take a look at their sector concentration. Take a look at some of the stocks that are in their portfolio. Or if you like, just go ahead and copy it to a watch list, the entire thing, and it will be added to your list of watch lists that you can filter through here in the top left. Excellent. So the next thing I want us to take a look at are ProPicks. So what are ProPicks? So ProPicks combines real-time data, advanced analytics, and Investing.com's proprietary scoring to rank stocks by upside, valuation, growth, and risk. We then break this down into specific strategies and themes. So our flagship strategy, which is Tech Titans, which takes a look at the top 15 tech stocks each month and algorithmically selects the ones that have the most potential upside to them. We also break this down into different investing strategies like Energy Elite or Quality Compounders or Top Value Stocks. ProPicks AI is available in, I believe, 26 different countries, and we have about 88 different strategies. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at Italy, and we see that we have the Italian Market Elite. We also have Italian Growth Stars as well. So I invite you to go ahead and take a look at your local country's strategies. So we're going to go ahead and use top value stocks as our example for today. So let's go ahead and see what we have in here. So at the top, we have the strategy's performance since the backtest was conducted back in 2013. Here is the current list of stocks here on the right. Directly below that, I have the total strategy return over a 12-year period, which is over 1,000%. we have an annualized return of 22% with a medium risk. And as you can see, when I hover over anything here, I get a lot of helpful tooltips. So feel free to hover over these items in case you don't understand something. Directly below that, we have the picks history. So a lot of times we get questions of, how do I know that a strategy has been updated? Or where can I see a strategies list from 3 months ago? So the way that you would do that is you would select any particular month or year that you'd like, and you go ahead and select it from the list. So why don't we go ahead and break down picks history? So the other big question that we get is, why was something added or why was something removed? So in order to help answer those questions, we created a column here called rationale, which essentially answers that question. So I see that this strategy was updated on December 1st. As a note, all strategies are updated on the 1st of every single month. We notify InvestingPro subscribers of this also on the website, but also via email and also via push notification. So we try our level best in order to make sure that InvestingPro members are aware of these updates. But as a general rule, all of these strategies will update on the 1st of every single month. So let's take a look at this example of Teradata. We see that it was added on December 1st at $29.42. It's currently live, and the action was that it was added. So why was it added? Let's go ahead and explore why. We see Teradata is a compelling buy based on exceptional market momentum. It's up 37% in a 1-month return. It shows impressive price action. Recent Q3 results delivered impressive earnings beat. Has a robust free cash flow yield. So these are the reasons as to why our algorithm selected it and added it to the list. Now, if we continue down this list, we also see that some items were removed after having a gain. So for example, Decker's Outdoor was removed from this list after a 12% increase. The reason for this is because relative weakness in market performance, valuation metrics, and profitability outlook. It experienced a significant decline. Despite strong profitability, future outlooks face headwinds. So it's an important note here that if a strategy is removed, it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's a sell signal. What it means is that our algorithm is rotating it out of the strategy because it identified a stock with a better opportunity. So just because something was removed doesn't necessarily mean it was a sell signal. And then of course, if something was removed with a loss, then we also indicate exactly why that was. Now, you're probably noticing on the right side here something called Pro Research. So essentially what this is, it's in a PDF format. I'll just enlarge it so that way you can see it a little bit better. It gives you an overview of key indicators. It gives an executive summary, strategically shifted from focusing on public cloud ARR growth. We also have the Pro Tips. We also have flowcharts of all the revenue and how the company is using this revenue. And of course, my favorite is the bull case and the bear case. Why should I buy this stock or why should I dump this stock? And of course, some additional insights. This is a PDF, so you can download this and share this with your friends and family. Excellent. So directly below the picks history, we have the stocks spotlight, which gives you an idea of some of the outperformers that are still in the strategy, when they were added to the strategy, and the run up or the decline since. So right now we're taking a look at outperformers. If I click on any of the selections here at the top, it then changes the chart. It also changes the information on the side here. So I invite you to go ahead and do that. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at some of the underperformers? We can see that United Health, we had a 17% decline. I can see that it was added on May, and then it was removed from the strategy in November. So I invite you to dig through all of these different strategies, take a look at the picks history, take a look at all the different months and the different stocks that were in the strategy in that particular month. Take a look at the stock spotlight, look at the outperformers and some of the new additions, and use this to generate some stock ideas. And of course, if you want to go ahead and take a look at the entire portfolio over time, you can do the same thing here. So let's say I want to take a look at top value stocks from August of this year. I now have this full readout of all the stocks that were there. So if I switch it to live, I see that all of the views that I've either created or are there by default, it's only available during the live strategy. So I want to just showcase how I might use this. So if I'm a value investor, something that might be interesting for me would be to filter the price percentage over the last 52 weeks if I'm looking for a value buy. So for example, I see that, let's take a look at here. Let's do undervalued. I see Booz Allen Hamilton. There's a 32.9% upside. I can see that the overall health label is good, but if I sort this, maybe I can find something a little better, right? So I see Haemonetics is 25.2% upside, which would make it undervalued. I see that the analyst target only pegged it at 3.4%, but I see that the overall health label is great. In my mind, this would be something that might be worth further exploration. Why don't we go ahead and click on it? Let's take a look at the pro tips. I see analysts have revised their earnings downward for the upcoming period. It's got a strong return over the last month. Analysts predict the company will be profitable this year. Interesting. I'd love to understand more as to why that is. Why don't we take a look at the news? So if I peruse the news here a little bit more, I might be able to understand better as to why analysts predict that they're going to have a stellar year. So just trying to give you guys some breadcrumbs as to, I got a stock idea, I come to the overview, I come to the equity overview page, quickly took a look at the fair value, quickly took a look at the financial health, took a look at the pro tips to just get a general understanding of why this stock idea might be a good stock idea. Excellent. So the next thing that I want to show you is Warren AI. So Warren AI is our large language model that is specifically created to answer investing and financial related questions. So sometimes we'll get comments from subscribers. Well, what's the difference between Warren AI and ChatGPT, for example, or Claude or any other large language model? So it really comes down to two primary things. Number one is the large language model itself, how it's built. ChatGPT, Copilot, Perplexity, all of these different LLMs are at times geared for different, excuse me, are at times geared for different purposes. So for example, Copilot is a general purpose LLM. It's moderately good at doing a bunch of stuff. Perplexity is really good at doing research. Claude is really good at doing specific things as well. So in this case, Warren AI is specifically engineered to understand what MACD is, to take a look at charts and to analyze the chart for you. It's specifically geared to answer those financial and investing related questions. Now, the second component to this is also the data set, right? So for example, ChatGPT browses the internet and it surfaces a lot of different sources that may or may not be related to your initial question, but also the recency of that data plays a critical part in providing that answer. So Warren AI, on the other hand, is connected to the real-time data that millions of investors use and rely on a daily basis. So you can be sure that this is the most up-to-date and fresh data that's out there possible, and also using a language model that can understand the question that you're asking it and surface that information. Not only that, but it's also connected to your watch list and portfolio. So you can ask it questions like, for watch list insights, why don't we do a diversification strategy? Assuming that my computer will allow me to do that. There we go, okay. So here's the prompt. It says, based on the composition of my watch list, suggest some things of how I can diversify my portfolio better. It accurately saw that I had a ton of different watch lists. So let's see how we can improve Bill Ackman's portfolio. And away we go. Let's just give it a sec to load up. So it provides for you a general summary. It gives you a sector breakdown with where Bill Ackman in this case is overweight. It says we're riding the tech supercycle, geographic exposure, takeaways, market cap, titans and tiddlers, visualizing the portfolio. And here is what Warren AI is proposing in order to diversify this particular portfolio. Additions to consider, adjustments, hidden risks, and final thoughts. And then, of course, what I really love about this is that it adds follow-up questions to the prompts that you're giving it. So in this case, it says, do we want a screener of top international healthcare or financial stocks to jumpstart the diversification? We're just going to go ahead and say yes. And it'll then, of course, ask me again which portfolio I want to do that for, and so it'll then go ahead and extract the insights and do that for me. Now you can also ask Warren a bit more abstract questions, right? So for example, let me see if I can find this in my list here. Yeah. So some of you may or may not remember that President Trump was proposing to cut the Fed rate to 1%, which is kind of ridiculous. And I was just curious as to what the impact would be on the stock market or cryptocurrency and real estate, and for Warren to suggest specific stocks that would benefit the most from this potential Fed rate cut. And it totally understood the question, and it then went and did a full deep dive onto which particular sectors would benefit the most from this particular cut. It gave me a readout of which stocks I should go ahead and explore and why. Some of the key takeaways, so on and so forth. So go ahead and feel free to be creative with your own prompt, and you can also ask it abstract questions. It doesn't only have to be geared towards only investing related themes. Now, something that just came out, or I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, was the ability for Warren AI to analyze a chart. So let's say that I am on an equity overview page. We're going to use our example of Cirrus Logic. You can find the Analyze Chart button over here. And it says, please provide technical analysis for Cirrus Logic. So it's going to go ahead and give me a summary. It's going to give me a full breakdown to the specific trading ideas and oscillators and things of that nature. And then what I find really interesting here is that it's also going to suggest for you entry and exit points, whether aggressive or conservative. It'll give you stop losses, it'll give you targets, it'll give you a risk reward, and it'll also tell you with what conviction and confidence this particular analysis it has in this particular analysis. So for example, with Cirrus Logic, what it's recommending us to do is to only chase these particular targets with strength above $124. Here the confidence is low, counter trend, and needs rejection. So it really helps you stress test and understand charts and give you potential entry and exit points, chart patterns and traps, key lessons and traders. So I highly recommend that you leverage Warren to ask it questions about broader market movements, about your particular portfolio, or to analyze any chart in order to help with your investing. And now, finally, what I would like to also show to you is here. Let's do MSFT. I just want to drive home the point that Warren is a lot more intuitive than people can sometimes give it credit for. So I'm just going to go ahead and access Warren directly through the workstation here. And I'm just going to ask it something super generic like, should I buy the stock? No context. So let's see what it says. So number one, it knows the stock page, it knows the page that I'm on. It gives me the fair value estimate, key takeaways, technicals, near-term momentum is fading. gives me a quick chart and what the take is on each of these particular metrics. Excuse me. It gives you the bull case, it gives you the bear case, analyst sentiment, chart checks, and of course the bottom line, and then of course the highly prized follow-up question. So this in essence concludes our webinar for today. Before I open it up for Q&A, what I would like to do is to quickly review some of the things that we went over today. So number one, do create alerts for economic earnings and dividend announcements. Do follow authors and save articles for later. Create a watch list to see the fair value and health of your assets and personalize this watch list by creating views. Use ProPicks AI. We launched about a month and a half ago 52 brand new strategies in another 16 different countries, which is in addition to the 11 that we already had. Also leverage ideas and under and overvalued stocks and the screener for idea generation. Use Warren AI and ProTips to speed up your due diligence, as I showed you guys. Check out the new Analyze chart tool, which we literally just looked at right now. And of course, take advantage of our extended Cyber Monday discounts. Many of you are already subscribers, but our Cyber Monday discounts are still going on. So if you're a Pro subscriber, I highly recommend you look into the Pro Plus offering. If you're a monthly subscriber, there are great deals on yearly subscriptions, assuming that you are finding value with the product. And now, of course, I will open this up for Q&A. All right. Wow, lots of entries. All right, so the first question is, will we get a recording of this after? Absolutely, and hopefully that will be today. But worst case scenario, we will have that email ready for you by tomorrow. So another question from Roger is, does each individual prompt use a credit? So I'd like to show here, if I may, because that is a very good and important question. So if I'm writing a regular prompt, that's going to cost me 1 credit. If I'm analyzing a chart, it's going to cost 5 credits. All right, so let's go ahead and click Analyze Chart. And then you see it went from 8 to 13. So chart analysis costs 5 credits. Other prompts only cost just the 1. So I have a question of how up to date is the financial data. It's real-time data. Can we get one list for all of the AI pick stocks? Rahal 200,000. If I understand the question correctly, you're looking for just a set list of every single one of the stock picks across all of the 88 different strategies? So while we're waiting for Rahal to answer, I see another question from Daniel, who says that it would be nice to have analysis view for the holdings too, not only the watch list. Completely agree with you, and this is something that we're working on right now. As you can see, there are some visual differences between the InvestingPro dashboard and the free version of the site, both in the holdings and the watch list. So currently, holdings are not available in the Pro dashboard. This is something that we know is a pain point for a lot of subscribers, and this is something that we're actively working on right now in order to port over some of that usability. Rahal, I'm just following up on your question. There is no list of all strategies, but it's an interesting idea. I'd like to follow up with you to better understand what utility you might have for this. But in any case, I'll forward this to our product team for their review. Excellent. Okay, that's all the time we have, and that's all the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I wish you a pleasant day.